videos are slowly turning on. I think we're just waiting for the last few to connect.
Yeah, their audio is just.
You guys are okay. What? Oh goodness.
All right.
Oh, little ones everywhere.
I don't see much. Oh yeah, there's some wind still out there today. It's a nice day. I was surprised to wake up to see the snow this morning though. So Lynn, do we have pretty much everybody that was going to be with us today?
We're missing one, but there's no one in the waiting room, so I think you can get started.
Okay. Yeah. And Lynn, if you don't mind, just keep watching and we'll let that person in. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm Daryl Graham. I'm one of the 4 speech language pathologists, one of the 5 actually. We've got a little, we've got somebody out in Pincher Creek as well, speech language pathologist that's out there supporting your children and the programs. So I also have with me today the amazing.
Hi, I'm Christie Crooks. I'm the family facilitator. I support families in the homes and I support in the school as well, and everybody on our team. So lots of supports here.
And we have in the background Lynn Saylor. You can see her name there, and she's our tech support, running everything from the back. She's the coordinator of early learning. So just before we get started today, Christy has a prayer she's going to share with us. So if you could join us in prayer.
I'll minimize my screen here. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. Today we pray for the parents, caregivers, and loved ones of the children we serve. Our world is a very busy one. So we pray that during this time together, we'll be successful in eliminating distractions and fully immersing ourselves in today's conversation. We thank you for this opportunity to talk about the many ways that we can connect with children, build on their skills of communication at home. Most of all, we give thanks for the children in our lives. We pray that we may continue to ignite and excitement as they learn and grow. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Christy. So the way it will kind of today will flow is I'll have a little bit of a conversation around some things we need to think about when we're working with children with their expressive spoken language. That's going to be our focus today. And then Christy and I will kind of grab some activities. We've kind of got a little bit of stuff from everywhere around our office and shelves and everything so that we can talk about ways that you can support your children at home with their language skills. And at the end, there'll be an opportunity, if you want to stay on, we'll be available to answer any questions as we go along. So today, like I said, our focus is going to be on expressive language. And so that's the words that we're using or the actions, because sometimes children may not be using very many words. So they are using their actions or their behaviors to communicate, such as pointing or taking you to something, or sometimes just frustration, right? And you can hear the vocalization that might be coming, but that's their way to communicate. And sometimes children might communicate with hand gestures as well as pictures. So there's lots of different ways that kids can communicate. A lot of what we'll be talking about today will be specific to supporting children to use more words, to start to connect their words, to start to build their sentences, the grammar structure that's in their sentences, the length of their sentences. So there'll be lots of strategies that we'll talk about and lots of examples to help you with some ideas at home. And there's probably some of your children may have an ISP document, which has goals that are laid out for those children to support and work on. And a lot of times there's multiple speech and language goals, as well as other goals that the program and yourself may have in place. So we're hoping that today we'll be able to guide you and give you some more direction around some of those expressive language things. By expressive language, we also mean the vocabulary that the child is using. And so vocabulary, we all, whenever we talk about vocabulary, we tend to think of the names of things, but it's also the action words that go along with things. It's also those concept words like in, on, out, dry, wet. It's also those plurals. It's pronouns, he's and she's, which is a very common one with a lot of the kids out there in our early learning programs. And like I say, just building those sentences and starting to use different types of sentences and asking questions, not just commenting or saying things. So we'll touch on a lot of that as we go throughout the day. Or sorry, it's not the whole day. You're just with me for for a half hour to 45 minutes. So just a couple of little things that we can do just to kind of set that stage for that success and to support those children to hear the words that we're using and for us to model back the words that they may be saying, but just being in the moment. So taking that opportunity to be with them within that activity that they're doing, whether it's playing, whether it's sharing a book with them, just taking that time to be with them and sometimes following their interest. Is another one. So, you know, a lot of times Christy and I may bring out a particular activity. We always have backups because we might think that this is a game that child wants to play or an activity that they want to do, but we find out pretty quickly, yeah, that's not of interest. So let's grab something else. And then you find you get them engaged, or we give them a choice. We've got some things with us. What would you like to do? So, you know, finding that interest is key for sure. And then joining in the play and having fun. And that's a huge one because a lot of what we do in our early learning programs is actually supporting the children within their play and within the activities they're doing. When we're working on speech, for sure, we're taking them out and doing that as a one-on-one type thing or small groups. Language, we might do some stuff with some pronouns. We might do some stuff with some answering questions, but a lot of what we really do is right within their day-to-day because and some children, especially 3 and 4, we might even have to embed those speech kinds of things depending on their interests. So in a perfect example is a little guy. We were working on some S blends. So we were working on stop and we were working on start and stop and just for those STs, but we were also working on concepts like fast and slow. So a perfect opportunity was to work with him within a play center where we had cars. And so, you know, we would start and then it would go down, it would stop. And then also we had fast and slow and we had putting car on. And so we were building sentences, we were working on those concepts and we were even embedding that speech. So the power of play and the ability to support the kids within those day-to-day kinds of activities is where we see the most success with the children that we're working with. And then being down at their level, being face to face and taking that opportunity to enjoy that time with them. So those are just a few of the things that can kind of set up that nice environment for that success initially. Some of the strategies that we're going to talk about when we bring out the activities and go through some of the games, and some of them are structured activities, some of them are open free play type activities, book sharing activities. We're going to talk about some ways that we can support the kids, because if we've got a child who isn't using words at all, we may want to start to get them to use sounds. And some of them may already be vocalizing some sounds, but we want to kind of build the sounds that they're using. So we might have them imitate what it is that we're saying. We might imitate what they're saying and then change it a little bit. So imitating what it is that they're saying is a way that we can support the kids. Another one is interpreting. So if you've got a child who is using very few words, and you guys are probably already doing this lots, right? You interpret what it is that they are trying to communicate and put the words to it so that they can hear it, emphasizing some of the key words, and all of a sudden you start to notice maybe some of those words start to pop out, or they kind of focused on what it is that you'd said, and we're able to kind of use a sound even to go along with it. Commenting. So a lot of times, and you guys are probably really good at this too, but commenting on what it is that the child is doing or what their sibling is doing while they're playing a game. Oh, hey, look, Johnny his car is going really fast. Your car is going really slow. So we can comment on what it is that they're doing so that they're hearing us use that language. And also they may choose to use some of their words while they're doing that as well. Another one is, and I've got a little handout here, and I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. Bear with me as I technically navigate through this. So everybody should see my crooked sheet. Let me straighten that out. So sometimes when we're trying to get children to communicate, so this is mainly with children who are choosing, or well, not choosing, but they're struggling with being able to use single words, or we're trying to get them to put a couple words together. So we want to try and find a reason for them to communicate with us. So sometimes just waiting and seeing what that child will do. So it's kind of almost what I talked about, like interpreting what it is that they may be trying to say if they could. So that's kind of just waiting to see what it is they might be saying. Avoiding the helper role. So trying not to necessarily always be helping them. And a perfect example is right here. So what the lady has done here with the children around the table is she has the juice with her, and she has the glasses, and so what she is doing is pouring the juice into the glass, and the children are requesting. So you see this little guy, and this little guy here may not be using any words, but he's able to indicate with the pointing that he wants the juice. So then what the teacher can do in this case is juice, juice. You want juice. And he might go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Or you might even go, or you might try to say something, and then we can say, yes, you said juice, here's your juice. But we're going to give him that juice one way or the other. But we're just setting up an opportunity where if we had just poured those glasses and done everything for the kids, we've lost some opportunity for that communication to happen. Another example of what we can do is if you place an object just out of reach or up on a shelf, they can point, they can indicate, but again, it gives you that opportunity. Oh, you want the car. We'll get the car down. Or you want more, you want to play with that more, so we can kind of get it down. This is another good one to try and get some communication happening, but introducing a hard to operate object. So if you've got like a toy that might involve you having to spin it because the kids that don't quite have that coordination to do it, or maybe it is one of those wind up robot kind of things, right, where they're going to need your help. Again, it's an opportunity, and we'll show you with bubbles, we'll show you with some other activities as a way that we can do to entice them to use some of their words. Offering things bit by bit is just maybe you're doing some Lego and you have the Lego on your side and you give them a few, and you might need to request more Lego, or you're building a train set. And the child might need more track. And so then you can support them to use their words. You can support them to put their words together. You can support them to build the grammar in their sentences. Always doing the unexpected is fun because the kids always do unexpected things with us. So, maybe you put a block on your head and it falls off, right? And then they want to put the block on your head, or you put it on their head. And then you're into a simple turn-taking game and having fun that way. So sometimes doing that unexpected, or offering choices. Do you want the fish in game, or do you want the puzzle? And the child might point to it, and then you can say, oh, you want the puzzle. And then sometimes you might get those sounds or that word popping out. All right, so I'll just stop sharing that. Another thing too, when we're, and the other thing too, I should mention, sorry, because some of you maybe weren't at our speech presentation before, we will send out a handout that will have all this information and remind you of some of those strategies as well. So if there's something you want to refer back to, some of that basic information will be in that handout too. And the video will be available as well, so you can always watch the video again, or refer anybody else who might want to watch this video. So another thing too, and this one here is a key one too, right? Sometimes it's just saying less. So being in the moment and simplifying our language and just focusing on some simple sentences or combinations of words can be quite helpful for kids. Stressing those key words that you might want them, and you're going to see Christie and I doing that as we go forward in some of the activities we're going to show you, as well as just slowing down. And sometimes I slow down. It's funny, I naturally, when I'm sitting working with kids, I slow down. But when I'm talking and with adults, I tend to talk too fast, and I do have to slow down. And I talk with my hands, but talking with your hands is good too, because that's the last thing I wanted to mention in this particular group of strategies is the showing. So saying less, stressing things, going slow, and showing. So if we're going to say, oh, we're going to put it in, or it's on top, or it's all done, right? We're gesturing those kinds of things. The kids are seeing that gesture. They might start to gesture too, but we're showing them what it is that word means, right? Within the context of the play. We're almost done all these little strategies. Another one is, and I've already talked about it, but just modeling it yourself, right? So, you know, if you're sharing a book and we're working on he and she pronouns, then we're going to say he is walking, right? And that's all we're doing. All I'm doing is I'm just stating it. I might say he is walking and add a little extra stress, but it's no expectation in the child that they're going to repeat anything back. They're just hearing it while we're sharing books or while we're playing with little figurines that might be he and she characters. The other thing too is reminding the child. So sometimes if a child is getting to the point where they're starting to remember and they remember to say I and me, but then sometimes they still slip. It's like, oh, did you mean to say me do it or I do it? So it's just that reminder, and you may not want them to say it back again, or they may not want to, but they are having an opportunity to stop and think about it, right? And typically they'll try and correct it. And then the last one is just, again, we talked about it already, so giving them a choice. Did you mean to say me is running or I am running? So again, just giving them those choices and letting them hear that difference, and then getting that information. All right, anything else, Christy, you want to add strategies wise before we get into the activities?
No, I think you touched on everything there. It sounded great.
Okay, good. So what we'll do, and maybe I'll no pressure on anybody. I'm just going to throw it out there. If there is anything that anybody wants to share, maybe what they're doing at home right now to support their children with their language, what maybe an activity or a game or a way that you're sharing a book. Like I say, no pressure. So Christy and I got lots of strategies, but I just felt if anybody wanted to share anything, you'd be more than welcome to. All right, so I waited for my 10, my Hannon 10, which means just give yourself enough time so you don't jump in. All right, so like I say, we'll have a lot of ideas and strategies that we'll talk to you about. And I think the first ones we can talk about, Christy, is and Christy does go into the homes and supports the kids with a lot of different activities, and sometimes it is those play-based, simple kinds of activities where you wouldn't necessarily think that it's a great opportunity for language. But we're going to talk about a few of them. Oh, and I guess I'm up first, Christy. But the old kids love a box, right? So what can we do with a box? Well, and I even think back, even laundry baskets, right? It's an opportunity to set that child in there and let's push them around. And I think of a child that I work with specifically at a school, and this child had very few words. He could communicate quite well by gestures and by vocalizations. You could read if he was happy or upset. And so what we would do, and it was sore on Mr. Daryl's back by the end of the session because I'm getting older. But what we would do is we had him go into it was a big laundry basket kind of tub, and we would push him around the library, me and the EA. And so we would push him and then we'd stop and we'd say, oh, do you want more push? And sometimes he would say more, sometimes he would say push, sometimes he would gesture it, right? And then I would put the word on top of that, push or more. And sometimes he just vocalized, and what I did was, oh, you want more, because maybe we get, but we weren't quite getting that word, but I knew what his intent was. So we would push him around, and then the librarian, who was always amazing there, we would push him by the librarian and we'd stop, and then he would wave, and then we eventually kind of got high, right? Kind of added on to that. So we were kind of vocalizing, thinking of some words that might fit within that activity as we were kind of being pushed around. But even, if you want to kind of get the kids to jump in a basket and you're going to fly them around, I think of when my kids were younger, and we'd be working on speech sounds as we're flying around in our laundry basket. Yes, I did need to support my kids with their speech sounds, and and some of the language kinds of things too, right? And so even it's like, I want more, please, right? Or so maybe you're working on the I, or maybe it's like push me, or I would say, I am going to push you, and then you're pushing me, right? So there's different things that you can support and work on within the context of those things. Christy, something else that might be a way that we can support the kids.
With your boxes and the baskets too, pretending you're an animal, right? They can put it on their back and they can be a turtle and they're crawling, and going, they can go under and over things in the box for sure. Do you want me to talk about outside stuff, or do you want to do?
Sure. Yeah. If you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the boxes, they're great, right? Like every kid loves a box. You could have a million boxes and they'll play all day, right? You can do all sorts of things with that, crashing into things. Oh, that hurt, and it was hard and soft, and filling it up with things, and having all their toys in there, and just going in, it's pokey, and they're pushing it out, or they have soft things, right? And they're all cuddled in and it's soft and cozy. So just expanding that experiences with it and the senses. Some of the things around the house as well, like with when they're setting the table, they can help you, getting the fork and the spoon and the knives and putting it on or putting it in the sink. If you want to play house, right? And you don't have a house and you don't have play dishes, well, you just collect things from the kitchen or around the house and set them all up wherever, in the living room or the kitchen or even outside. You can have a picnic and play house with your own household items. You don't need to go out and purchase specific toys to have that plastic play fruit. You can do real fruit or plastic dishes that you have, or glass, right? You need to learn how to use their glass, and is it sharp or soft, pokey, right? Can I have a plastic knife and cut with it and slice, and talk about all the languages. I can cut, or it's my turn to cook, or I would like to take a turn, right? So things like that in the house. Going out in the community is also a great opportunity, right? If you're going just for a walk down the street or walking to the park, you can constantly comment on the trees and their blowing and the colors and how it smells. I can smell the green on the leaves, or I can see a blue bird up in the sky, or I heard a sound. So you can talk about the sounds and practice the sounds. Oh, I heard a bird. Let's chirp. Cheep, 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 chirp, chirp, chirp. Or a cat. Oh, I saw a cat. It's crawling on the grass. Let's pretend we're cats. Meow, meow. So, even if they only know the sounds, you can just say the sounds of those animals, or the wind blowing, or the cars zooming by. Vroom, that car was fast, right? And then when you're at the park, talk about going down the slide. The slide was slippery or it was fast. Doing those actions, or they're jumping on, some of the playgrounds have those really squishy floors now, so they can jump up and down. So talking about how it's soft and they can jump. So things like that. Yeah. I can go on and on. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When Christie does come out and support in the homes and the MJs who also does the same thing as Christie for some families, then you can kind of see a lot of this stuff in action for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Doing laundry, right? Like you can fit it in. You can fit it anywhere in your home, right? You don't have to go and specifically pull out the toys. They can help you with laundry, right? You can pull the laundry out. You can put the laundry in. You can make the beds. They can help you hang things up, right? Putting the hanger in, you can talk about how it feels, or, oh, that was really hard, to put the hanger in there into the clothes. So just every day as you're going through the home, commenting and making suggestions, and you're rhyming words, right? It just comes by naturally to start rhyming with what's in the house, right? So I obviously can't think of a rhyme because I'm talking about it. So Daryl, if you can think of one. But yeah, I think doing things in your home and in your car when you're out traveling and driving, and just being in the community and just making it natural and easy, and things will always come up in the grocery store, right?
Yes.
Giving them grocery lists, whether it's a picture of something, and you talk about, oh, let's go find it on the shelf. Oh, it's really high. I need help getting it down. I wonder what it tastes like or smells like, right? And putting it in the cart or taking it out of the cart and giving it to the lady. So things like that, really thinking about when you're out and about and taking the time to comment and seeing how they respond back to you, and being able to add on to say, oh, that, oh, I see some spicy sauce. Oh, it might be hot, right? Do you think it's hot to touch or hot to taste? Right. So.
Yeah. And what I really liked about the kind of what Christie was talking about there is a lot of the examples she used weren't necessarily the names of things. And typically we would do that, like naming asparagus and naming all those things as you're going through the grocery store. But some of the things we don't necessarily think about is a lot of those concepts, right? Like it's too high, or it's hot, or the touch, the taste, the feel, all those kinds of things are what we want to support that child's vocabulary and that growth. So great examples, because it's sometimes we just fall in that trap of the naming and labeling, or falling into that trap of colors and shapes, right? Whereas we want to be thinking of language in a more broader way. Yeah. So I'm going to do an example with bubbles. And first of all, I want to share a screen here because let me show you. Here we go. So one of the other SLPs here kind of put this together. And we use this with a lot of families to kind of support them with some ways that we can think of vocabulary while we're doing different activities. So while we're playing with a ball or while we're blowing bubbles. And when you look at some of the different things that we can work on, so you've got those sound effects like pop, 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 right? Those fun sounds. We could do something that's more of a noun or a name of something like a bubble or a wand. You know, we've got action words like blow and catch. If we're going to try and catch it on the kids always like to try and catch it on the little bubble wand. The bubbles might be messy, they're pretty, whatever kind of different describing word they might be, right? Wet. Some of those social words, and social words are just words that we use in a lot of means to communicate. So more, all done. We got concepts like crazy, open, close, up, down. The bubbles are big, they're little, there's one, there's lots. And even questions, want more bubbles, right? So there's lots of things that we can do within the context of this. So whether we're working with a child that has single words and we want to get 2-word combinations, whether we've got 2-word combinations and we want to get 3-word combinations, there's ways that we can support the kids. And I'm just going to get my bubbles out now. And the best part about bubbles is, oops, I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm going to make myself smaller. There we go. Now you maybe can see my bubbles better. But it's amazing how much language you can get out of bubbles with kids. And I think of a little girl I was working with, and she had lots of difficulties being able to organize and coordinate her sounds to be able to produce words. So what we were looking at doing is we're going to take these bubbles and we're going to see what we can do to try and get some words happening. So we kind of made it a bit of a game, and I've done this with other kids as well. But first thing we want to do is it's like, oh, I've got bubbles. Do you want to do bubbles? Right. So we got to kind of yes and no. And then the next thing is the first part of doing the bubbles was me doing lots of the modeling. So it was me showing what the routine of the bubbles was going to be, and then looking to have her use some of her words with me. So it'd be like, oh, I'm going to opening the bubbles. Now I'm going to take out the wand and I'm going to blow bubbles. And then she would try and catch them or bust them. I was catching them on my wand. Hey, I'm doing pretty good here today. So then it would be like, oh, bubbles, lots of bubbles. So I'm going to close it. And then I would just hold it and it says, you want more bubbles? More bubbles. And again, we were hoping to maybe hear more bubbles, get a gesture. And we were starting to get, like at the beginning or after we did this a few times, we started to get the use of more and then more bubbles. And then what we did was we put a little extra routine in it. So it's just like, so I'd say, oh, do you want me to leave it closed or do you want me to open? And we'd get, and be, oh, you want me to open? Yeah, it's good. I heard it, saw a gesture out there too, right? Open. So we're going to open. And then we got into, this is the most fun part of it. I love this stuff with bubbles. So then it became the routine of, I'm going to huff. I'm going to puff. I'm going to blow the bubbles out. And then we would catch and play the bubbles. And then we'd close it up again. We'd get her to say open, right? Or more bubbles. And then what we would start to do is now I'm going to get her into this little activity. So now I'm going to say, I'm going to pause, wait, listen, see if she says huff, or she might gesture it. And she did at one point. She was showing me, oh, you're huffing. And then she go, ha, 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 right? And then we're going to puff, and then we're going to blow the bubbles out. So just taking that opportunity within that routine to kind of support the kids, and mom kind of continued those bubbles, and it was a long journey because this child really struggled with getting a lot of those sounds and words together, but we started to see that within those structured activities we could have some success. So something as simple as bubbles, we can have that child using words like open, close, more, please. We can have them finish a little silly song that we kind of invent that goes along with that. Yeah, Christie, anything else? Oh yeah, next thing, we were going to talk a little bit about play. So some ways that you can kind of, so I guess bubbles could be play or sidewalk chalk, right? Those kinds of things. But if we think of more play as in you've got some superheroes at home, or you've got, notice I went to superheroes first, but you might have little Polly Pockets if they're still around anymore. You might have, Christy, you got a farm set over there. You can give us some, oh, and we got Mr. Potato Head. So yeah, Christy, if you want to kind of chat a little bit about a few of those play activities where we can support kids' language.
Yeah, so I'll start with my Mr. Potato Head. I'm just gonna move my screen down so you guys can see it. So some people have like lots of pieces, right? To make a boy or a girl, so a he or a she, Mr. Potato Head. So you can each have one or just have one. And you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna put my Mr. Potato Head. He needs some feet, so let's put some feet. Let's put him on the feet. So he's gonna be on the feet. And then I'll be like, what should we do next? And sometimes, depending on if they have the words or not, I'd be like, oh, should we do an arm or an ear, right? And give them the choice if they need that, or they may just choose. Oh, I want to do the arm. So should we put the arm on his head? Should we put the arm in his nose? Oh, his arm goes on the side of him. There's his arm with his great big muscles. Oh, he's so strong. And then we have a nose. Where should the nose go? Oh, I think the nose should go in the front. There's his nose. What do we use his nose for? We sniff with our nose, right? So you can talk about the functions of them too, right? Our hands hold and carry. They give hugs, they give high fives. So it just depends on where they're at for their learning level for their language. Oh, I have a hat. Should my hat go? Should it be my shoes? Should it be, oh, it should be my ear. Oh no, you're being silly. It goes on my head, and you can gesture your own head, right? It goes on my head. I'm gonna wear it on my head. So it's just repeating, right? Repeating the words lots. Hopefully they can grow and you can add words, comments. I think he needs some eyes so he can see. Let's put his eyes. There's his eyes. Oh, I can see you. I think he might, what else does he need? And then you pause, you wait. What's he missing? I wonder. I think, and then you wait and see what they say. Oh, he needs an arm. He needs two hands. His hands and his arms, and it goes on his side. And you can wave, hi, I see you. Yeah, so you can pick all different pieces. And yeah, if you have a boy and girl, you say, oh, he looks like a cowboy with big, strong muscles. So depending on where you're at, you can do a whole story about where he's gonna go. He's gonna go to the farm and see the farmer. Hi, farmer. See, I have a he and a she. So if you have a boy and girl, and if you don't have a boy and girl, you just have animals. The animals can be he's and she's too, right? So you can label them that way. So yeah, with your Mr. Potato Head, you can play it as a game. You can hide the pieces around the house. And then when you find the piece, oh, where'd you find your piece? Oh, I found it under the chair. Oh, you found it under the chair. That's great. Or you found it in the shoe or in the fridge. Yes, you can hide your pieces all over the place and go and hunt for them and talk about where you found them, what you would use them for to extend that language or the sentences. They only know the one word, arm. Oh, you have an arm. The arm is, you can talk about colors. The arm has, this arm is yellow. Is your arm yellow? No, my arm is white or brown. Or if they have sleeves on, sometimes it says purple. All right, so I'm going to pull over my farm. Oh, we forgot the mouth. There's the mouth. Here's my farm. So a lot of times in the class, well, always in the classroom, and or if I come into the home, we have a farm. So bring this up just a little bit. There's my farm. Oh, all tangled up too. So I have my farm here, and then I've got all my animals. Sometimes if I'm working on he's and she's, I'll have the he and the she, the boy and the girl, right? I have a girl, I have a boy. My boy, the farmer, Mr. Farmer, depending on what you're working on, because some of the kids still call Mr. Graham, Mrs. Graham, or Mr. Crooks. So that's important, but my farmer's going in the barn. He's going to feed the horse. Here's my horse. It's gonna go. My horse is gonna go in the barn. What does a horse say? Neigh, neigh. There's my horse. Oh, the sheep is wild. The sheep is crazy. The sheep likes to climb the farm. He's always on top of the farm. Goes in the farm, and you know what he really likes to do? He likes to go in, I don't know what you call this, chute. And he goes in the chute and he slides down and he crashes. He really crashed all the way on the floor. Crashed. Oh, that was a hard ground. So you can talk about how hard it was. Then we have our pigs. Our pig likes to get dirty in the mud. So the pig's gonna go rolling in the mud. Oh, my pig rolled in the mud. Oink, 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 oink. Hey friends, come over and play. So we just keep talking and what our animals and our farmers are doing. So they're going in, they're going on, they're going down. And it doesn't have to be things that you do in the farm. It can be silly things like we like to have a dance with the goat on top of the barn. Hi goat, right? So you just keep talking and describing what you're doing and waiting and hoping, depending on the reluctancy of your child, whether or not they want to participate and say anything. You say moo, moo, moo. Hopefully they'll join in and be like ba, ba with their sheep. That's my barn. And you can do it with house. And even if you have a box, and you have a couple of superheroes that you want to play with, right? Superheroes are boys and girls. You can work on your he's and she's. If you get a cardboard box, you can decorate your box up. It can be a house. It can be a garage. You can put your cars in and talk about fixing things. It's all different kinds of things you can do with those.
Yeah, good. And that's a good way that you're supporting that child to be able to understand that language that's connected with that play that you're participating with them in. And on the flip side too is you commenting on what they're doing as well. So taking that opportunity to reinforce some of those words, and then all of a sudden the words that Christie was modeling there within that play, all of a sudden they might start to use them, right? Or they might just start to talk about some other things, and that's okay too. And then you got a little bit of a conversation happening with your characters or other things too. So, you know, commenting on what they're doing, commenting on what you're doing, having that dialogue, that conversation, and being in the moment with them. Yeah. A couple other activities that we'll cover here fairly quickly is, I'm just going to share my screen again. And here we go. So we've got the puzzle, right? And so lots of opportunities. Transportation always is a popular one with a lot of kids. So we have lots of opportunities to talk about trains and cars and motorcycles. We've got 1, 2, 3 syllable words. We've got lots of neat things that we can do with the kids' speech as well as their language. And sometimes what I do, if I'm working with a child who may have, again, a limited number of words, or they're starting to combine their words, what we can do is, you know, sometimes I'll have the puzzle pieces in a bag, and then we're going to open, and then we're going to reach in and see what we find. Airplane. And I probably would pause and wait to see if they would say it. They might say plane, and then it's just like, oh, let's find it. Airplane in. And now it's my turn. I take a turn. I found a dump truck. I'm going to put dump truck in. So again, I'm kind of simplifying my language. I'm still having conversations. I'm not using 2 and 3 word combinations in some of the sentences, but when I'm wanting them to kind of maybe put some of those words together or use the words on their own, then I'm pausing and waiting and modeling those types of things. And then the child gets their turn, they reach in. Oh, what did you get? And they might say car. And I say, oh, is it a car or a motorcycle? Or scooter, I guess. And then it's like scooter. So that's one way of doing it with the children, where you're trying to get them to combine and start to label some of the words that they need for their later use. Or maybe we're working on something a little bit more. So what we're doing is we're just labeling, putting them in. It's like, what are we going to do with the scooter? We're going to drive to the beach, right? So that we can kind of have a bit more of a conversation and work on those longer sentences. Or where does a train go? On the tracks, right? So we're getting on the tracks. Train goes on the tracks. Or, oh, where do we take a bus? to go to school. So we can ask some questions and kind of build on it. I know I wasn't going to talk a lot about questions today, Christy, but there is an opportunity to do that too. And for the kids that use picture communication, and maybe they're not using a lot of words, or we're trying to help them to support words while we're doing these activities in the programs, sometimes they're using these kinds of sheets so that they're seeing some of the pictures. It's like, oh, you put the piece in, so that we're kind of building and them seeing it too within the context of that. So sometimes those are the things that we're doing to support those children with their language. And then books is another one, Christy, that's a great way that we can look to support kids. And so this is a fun book here. And so with the Dear Zoo book, what I like about Dear Zoo is there's lots of concepts in it. So it's like, okay, we're going to label some animals, and then we've got some clues that we can do. So I wrote to the zoo to send me a pet. They sent me, I wonder what could be in here. It's very heavy and very big. And then, maybe you start to kind of peek behind it. Oh, it's an elephant. Would an elephant be a good pet to have? And then you can have a little bit of a conversation there. No, he's too big. He's going to bust right through our house. And then on the next page, we've got another animal. And let's see, they sent us another animal. I wonder if this is going to be a good pet, maybe better than the elephant. Let's see, what is it? What do you think it is? And then we've got the kind of talking about giraffe. And then it's like, but the giraffe is too tall. So again, lots of opportunities as we go through this book. The tiger is too fierce. Sorry, the lion. The camel is too grumpy. And the snake is too scary. So lots of opportunities to kind of build on that vocabulary. And Christy has another book there too that can look at a little bit more higher level language kind of thing.
Do you want to stop sharing?
Stop sharing? Yes, absolutely. There you go, Christy.
No, the screen's just so small. So I have little mouse. Oh, shiny lights and a red apple. So even with books, when I have all these words, and sometimes I don't even read the words, right? Sometimes I'll just look at the book and like, oh, there's a big red apple and it's splashed in the water. I bet you is the apple going to be wet, or is it going to be dry when it's in the water? Oh, that frog. He looks like he might eat the apple, but look, he helped me, came out. So I'm just talking about the pictures in the book. I don't even have to read the words, right? Depending on where you're at and how interested they are, because sometimes you can just make it up as you go along, or sometimes the kids want to tell the story and they're looking at the pictures and they're commenting and telling you what's happening in here. Oh, I wonder how heavy that apple is. Look at that. It's so much bigger than the mouse. He looks so tiny. If it's heavy or if it's slippery when he pushes it. And you can go on, oh no, it's under the bush. I wonder if they're going to get it out. It looks like it might be stuck. There they are. And so you can go along. Whoops. He's dreaming. He's dreaming about how juicy the apple is going to be and how crunchy the apple is going to be. Oh, do I like apples? Do you like apples? Some kids don't like apples, right? And that's okay. So you just can make comments and see what they're going to say as they go along. Thud, he hits a great big tree. Oh, I don't know. Are we going to go over? Are we going to go under? Do we have to dig a hole? I think it might take a while to dig a hole, but look, here's a fella that can dig a hole. He can help us. So you're just kind of talking about the pictures and, seeing if they're going to comment and say things in the story. They can, I don't know, are they going to get over? So yeah, don't even have to use the words. You just look at the pictures.
Yeah, and inviting them to tell the story as well, right?
Yeah.
And what do you see, and what is it that you'd like to share too, right? And so again, lots of opportunities so that when Christy's doing so much of that wonderful modeling and talking and that conversation, and then the child might say something, and then you can remodel it back and add that extra information and build that sentence by adding in a little is or they forgot a particular word. So there's lots of neat things you can do. Yeah. The books I know Christy is huge on books. So
yeah, well, rolling, hopping, jumping, right? Like you can and your imagination can go wild. The kids can comment and make their own story. It doesn't have to be anything about it. They can just look at the picture and be like, go off. This mouse and this apple went to outer space. Wow. How are they going to get to outer space? Right. So
yeah. Yeah, and a couple other quick things we'll cover so that we can stick around for any questions you might have. But one is, I'm just going to share again, is song, right? Kids are just so keen on songs. And what I like about Old MacDonald Had a Farm is it allows you to have them participate, because, you know, it's like Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on his farm he had a, and I've got here the particular pictures that go with it, but I mean, maybe you're just kind of coming up with them on your own, or you have a different book at home with animals, and then it allows them opportunity to label those animals, and then also it allows the opportunity for them to fill in other parts. So you can say, and on this farm he had a sheep, E-I-E-I-O, and the sheep Baz, right? And then they could do the E-I-E-I-O. So there's lots of opportunities with these repetitive songs to support that child to start to use their words more, and to participate within the different activities. And then sometimes when Christy and MJ do come out to the home, they do a little bit more of a structured kind of thing. So maybe a lot of times it is kind of play-based stuff, but sometimes they might come out and work on the speech sounds, or they might just work on pronouns. So they might work on something like he is jumping rather than him is jumping, and he is running rather than him is running. So sometimes you might get different errors, or for a girl, they might say her, or they might mix up their he's and she's. So again, we have specific cards, and maybe we do some of the cards and then we play part of a game, we do some more cards and then play part of a game, or we've got duplicate sets of all these cards. We can do a little memory game. For the older kids, we might be able to try and do a go fish. We can hide these around the house and find them and talk about them. We can talk about what our friends are doing in the classroom when we come back to the classroom, talk about what siblings are doing while you're reading books, while you're playing with toys, right? Again, having that opportunity to talk about the he's and the she's and the is's and the ings. So we won't go through that specifically, but sometimes, you know, Christy might on her visits or with the support might work specifically on something like that. So that kind of covers a lot of the things we're going to talk about. I know we went through a lot. I hope that gives you some ideas and suggestions of ways that you can support your kids at home to use their language and to build their language and to build their sentences and to remember their grammar. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and just open it up. I mean, if anybody wants to leave now, feel free. If anybody has any questions, we'll just I'll just stop talking and wait. And I'll wait 5 more seconds.
I just want to say something here, Steve.
Oh, sure.
Here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take off here, but I greatly appreciate it for the info that you guys supplied me here today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Thank
Stephen.
you.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. Like I say, we'll send out a handout to go along with this, with some of the information that we covered today, so that that you can kind of look back over it and see if there's some other things that might fit into your day-to-day. Thanks again. Have a wonderful Thursday. Almost said Friday. We're not quite there yet.
No. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. It was great having you.
So
Take
thank
care.
you. Goodbye.
Bye and bye.
Thank you, guys.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Sarah.
Sarah.
You.
Bye, Zachary. Bye, Parker.
Oh, so excited.
All right. Well, bye, Christy. Bye, Lynn.
That was
Bye.
great, you guys.
Oh, thank you.
That was really good.
Okay. I know this is recording, so I guess we better.
Oh,
Yeah.
I cut it off.
Stop
It's okay.
recording. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Is it's not recording right now?
Oh, it says recording.